The silence in our apartment had become a living thing, a suffocating presence that filled the spaces where laughter used to be. It wasn't an empty silence, it was heavy, laden with unspoken words, with the ghosts of conversations we no longer had. Min, my husband, would sit across the dinner table, the clinking of his fork against the ceramic plate the only percussion in our nightly ritual. His gaze, when it met mine, was distant, as if looking through me to a point somewhere on the wall behind. I was a fixture, a part of the well-worn furniture of our life. And I, Lynn, was suffocating. It started, as these things often do, innocuously. A work conference. A shared table at a networking lunch. Koa. He was everything Min wasn't, or perhaps, everything Min had ceased to be for me. KHOA's eyes crinkled when he smiled, a genuine, infectious warmth that made me feel seen. Really seen. His laughter was easy, his compliments unforced. He asked about my dreams, the ones I'd carefully packed away in the attic of my mind, labeling them, impractical, or, for another time. "You have a novelist's soul, Lynn," he'd said one afternoon, over lukewarm coffee in a bustling cafe, the city's hum a counterpoint to the sudden stillness in my chest. "I can see stories in your eyes." No one had said anything like that to me in years. Min used to. Before the promotions, the mortgage, the slow, insidious creep of routine that had eroded the vibrant colors of our early love, leaving behind a faded, sepia-toned photograph. The texts began as an extension of our work conversations, then morphed into something more personal. Little pockets of sunshine in my increasingly gray days. A shared joke. A picture of a funny street sign. Then, a heart emoji. My own heart would flutter, a traitorous little bird in my ribcage. I told myself it was harmless, a friendship. But a cold knot of guilt would tighten in my stomach whenever my phone buzzed while Min was in the room. I'd angle the screen away, my fingers fumbling, a flush creeping up my neck. The first time Koa touched me, a light brush of his hand against mine as he passed me a document, it was electric. A jolt that shot up my arm, awakening nerve endings I'd forgotten existed. That night, lying beside Min's sleeping form, his rhythmic breathing a familiar, yet suddenly alien sound, I stared at the ceiling, replaying that fleeting contact. The guilt was sharper now, a shard of glass pressing against my conscience. But beneath it, a dangerous, exhilarating thrill. "Just coffee," I'd messaged Min. Catching up with an old colleague. The lie slid out with an ease that horrified me. The old colleague was Koa, and the coffee shop was a prelude. We ended up in his apartment, the rain lashing against the windows, a soundtrack to the storm brewing inside me. His kiss was tentative at first, then deepened, hungry and desperate. It was a kiss that tasted of longing, of rebellion, of 1,000 unspoken desires. In that moment, the silence of my own apartment, the weight of Min's unspoken disappointment, vanished. There was only the rain, and Koa, and the intoxicating illusion of being alive again. The affair became a secret garden, a vibrant, illicit world I escaped to. With Koa, I was witty, passionate, desired. The reflection in his eyes was a woman I barely recognized, but desperately wanted to be. Back home, the charade was exhausting. Every touch from Min, every shared meal, felt like a betrayal. I'd find myself snapping at him over trivial things, the way he loaded the dishwasher, the channel he chose on TV. The guilt gnawed at me, but the addiction to KHOA's attention, to the feeling of being cherished, was stronger. "You seem different," Min said one evening, his brow furrowed. He was sitting on the edge of our bed, watching me get ready for a late work dinner. My reflection in the mirror showed a woman with brighter eyes, a nervous energy thrumming beneath her skin. "Different how?" I asked, my voice a little too sharp, my hands fumbling with an earring. "Happier, maybe? But also, distant." His gaze was searching, and for a terrifying moment, I thought he knew. My heart hammered against my ribs. Just stressed with work, I mumbled, turning away, unable to meet his eyes. The lies piled up, each one a brick in the wall I was building between myself and MINH, between my two carefully compartmentalized lives. The stolen afternoons, the whispered phone calls, the constant fear of discovery, it was a precarious tightrope walk. Sometimes, I'd catch a glimpse of myself in a shop window, a furtive, haunted look in my eyes, and a wave of self-loathing would wash over me. Who had I become? The climax wasn't a dramatic confrontation, no shouting match or tearful confession. It was quieter, more insidious, and all the more devastating for it. I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter, charging. Koa, ever impulsive, had sent a message. Not a text, but one of those picture messages with a short, sweet caption. It was a selfie of us from our last tryst, his arm around me, both of us smiling, looking carefree. I'd forgotten to delete it. I walked into the kitchen to find MINH standing there, my phone in his hand, his face ashen. The silence in the room was no longer just heavy, it was a vacuum, sucking all the air, all the life, out of me. He didn't look up. He just placed the phone back on the counter, the screen still glowing with our illicit happiness. "Lynn," he said, his voice barely a whisper, so devoid of emotion it was terrifying. "Who is he?" The world tilted. The carefully constructed facade of my life crumbled, showering me in the debris of my deceit. There were no more lies to tell, no more evasions. Just the stark, ugly truth. The ensuing conversation is a blur of fragmented memories. My stammered explanations, his quiet, devastating questions. There was no rage, no accusations, just a profound, fathomless sorrow in his eyes that cut me deeper than any anger could have. It was the look of a man whose world had been irrevocably shattered. He didn't ask why I did it, he asked what he had done wrong, what he had failed to be. And that was the cruelest blow. Because the fault, I knew, was mine. "I need some time," he said finally, his voice hoarse. "I need to think." He packed a small bag, the movements precise, almost robotic. Each item he folded, a shirt, a pair of socks, felt like another nail in the coffin of our marriage. When the door clicked shut behind him, the sound echoed through the apartment, a final, definitive punctuation mark. In the days that followed, the silence returned, but it was different now. It was the silence of absence, of loss. The apartment felt cavernous, haunted by his ghost. I called Koa, my voice trembling. He was sympathetic, of course, but there was a new caution in his tone, a distance. The thrill of the forbidden had vanished, replaced by the messy, uncomfortable reality of consequences. Our secret garden, once so vibrant, now seemed overgrown with weeds, its colors dulled. "Maybe we should cool things for a bit, Lynn," he'd said. "Let the dust settle." The dust never settled. It simply became a permanent layer over everything. The affair, stripped of its secrecy and excitement, withered. Koa was an escape, not a destination. MINH and I tried counseling, but the wound was too deep, the trust too irrevocably broken. The image on my phone screen was seared into his memory, a constant reminder of my betrayal. We were like two pieces of a shattered teacup, the edges too jagged to ever fit back together seamlessly. Eventually, we signed the papers. The stroke of the pen felt like a severance, not just from a marriage, but from a part of myself I could never reclaim. Now, alone in a smaller apartment, the silence is a different companion. It's no longer suffocating, but it's not entirely peaceful either. It's the silence of reflection. I look back, not for excuses, but for understanding. The affair wasn't about Koa, or even entirely about MINH. It was about a void within me, a hunger for validation, a desperate attempt to feel something, anything, other than the slow fade of my own existence. I had sought life in the most destructive way possible, igniting a wildfire that consumed everything in its path, leaving behind only ashes and regret. The profound lesson wasn't just about the sanctity of marriage, or the pain of infidelity. It was about the courage it takes to confront dissatisfaction head-on, to communicate, to work on the cracks before they become chasms. I had chosen the coward's way out, seeking a fleeting spark outside instead of tending the embers within my own home, within my own heart. The price was steep: a lost love, a broken man, and a reflection in the mirror that still, some days, I struggle to recognize. The echo of that shattered teacup, and the life it represented, still resounds, a constant, quiet reminder of the high cost of chasing illusions.